to our first session of our 6th painting module here at Renaissance Academy. Today we are going to begin our journey into portraiture. So you have been given in your worksheets the picture that we're going to use for our model reference, and her name is Rowan, and so today we are going to get it this far, and that's about it for today. But I think next week what we're going to do is we are going to add a little bit more color and refine the drawing some more on it. So that is for next week. All right, so get your canvas set up, get it toned. This is just burnt sienna, yellow ochre, and a little bit of ultramarine blue. All right, so get your computer ready and we are all set. All right. Okay, so I will be talking a little bit about our skull anatomy while I'm working on this painting. And I want to approach this lesson with an anatomical background, as with all portraiture studies. So when you are painting a portrait, I really want you to get a few key components to our skull in your mind. There are certain areas of our skull specifically that you paint that will give you a very distinct likeness. So I will always be referring to the ocular cavity. Our eyes are the window to the soul, and you really can tell someone's feelings and personality and everything by the eyes. You also really get a sense of their likeness. So when painting the ocular cavity in a person, everybody's different, and part of that definition is in our eyebrow. Okay, so our eyebrow follows the line of that upper ocular cavity here. So that is something that we are going to be referring to always in portraiture. And then the zygomatic bone, the cheekbone. This is different on everyone, and depending on the amount of flesh in your face, how visible it is. But even no matter what, this angle here in everyone is different. You can see some people it comes down further, some people it's just bigger, bonier. Mine actually kind of matches the skull, so it comes about to that degree. All right, on hers, and then you can see on our model, it comes down a little bit lower. So some people, it drops a little more on her face. So anyway, so we are going to pay attention to those. And then the muzzle, where this comes out, everyone has their canine tooth right here, which is where it turns on a plane. So if you can buy one of these, that would be awesome for you to have. I paid, I think, $45 for this on Amazon. It's resin. The mandible comes off, but it is obviously taken from a real skull, but you can get cheaper ones too. I preferred this one. I wasn't really prepared to spend tons of money on it because I really only use it for reference. So if you want a real human skull, good luck. I don't even know where people get them or if they borrow them from medical professionals or whatever, but you can get really, really, really highly detailed fake copies where you see all of the different, this is okay, but you can get them much more detailed. I would definitely invest in having one of these guys in your studio. This is actually a woman's skull. For a while I studied forensic art and thought it was interesting. I thought maybe I would use it with my classical background because the study of the human skull is fascinating for likeness. And anyway, concluded that this is a woman's skull. And as I've gotten to know her a little bit, I realized, oh my gosh, this skull actually kind of matches mine. It's a little eerie and creepy. So I named her Jane. That's my middle name. So we use Jane as our reference. Unfortunately, I looked like she got in too many fist fights, or I moved too many times and she ended up losing one of her canines here. But regardless, we can still use this side in reference to that turn in portraiture. See how even here, the highlight hits here? We always want to make sure to get that in the muzzle, where those different larger teeth turn that shape. Okay, so we're going to work on this, and I thought that I would do some drawing on my drafting table to talk, but I think, you know what, let's just jump into this painting here, and we're going to break down the process of drawing. And so that is our approach today. Next week, I will also talk, I will have a blank canvas up here. I want to talk a little bit more about painting eyes, nose, maybe the mouth, whatever. We're going to take smaller canvases and just really blow up the eye and show how I paint the eye and things like that. So when we approach then the painting, we'll bring her back up on the canvas, on the easel, and we will approach that way. So we're going to break up each portrait session in half with a little bit of how-to, a little bit of that. So, all right, guys, jump in. Let's go. All right, so to begin, I have my photograph on my computer that I'm going to be going from. I have a 12-inch across by 16 vertical cotton canvas. Just going to lean that this way. I'm going to put a tone over the top of this. Today, all that I'm going to be using is first I'm going to tone the canvas with a little burnt sienna, a teeny bit of ultramarine blue, and then some yellow ochre. So I'm just going to start at the top. I've got it mixed with some Gamsol, just some thinner, and I'm going to put this down on my canvas. I chose this color because I really kind of see it in the warmth of her shadow on her skin tone, because the painting, the image here has a very cool outdoor light and then warm shadows. So if some of this canvas peeks through, I think that that'll be just fine for those passages where her the shadows are. I always like thicker paint where the light is hitting and then thinner paint on the shadows. So this will be just fine for that if some of this peeks through. It'll give it a nice warmth too, nice glow. All right, so I go a little darker than I need. Then I take just a paper towel and I wipe some of that off, because it leaves a really slick residue on the surface. So just about like that. So if you're following along and you're doing this step by step with me, just pause when you get to a place if you need to catch up, whatever. So I like to give the canvas a little bit of texture, just like this. Kind of breaks it up, and again, if any of it does show through, it makes it interesting. So then I dab it like that, and then so instead of seeing that paper towel texture on the surface, I just take and sort of feather out those obvious paper towel texture areas. This is just a style thing I enjoy doing. You don't have to do this. You can wipe it so that it's perfectly flat. I just like a little bit of just breaking it up a little. Okay, so we'll set that paper towel aside. I usually save ones like this that I don't want to hold in my hand, but they're not completely spent. I'll use that at the end or maybe at some point in the middle to clean up my mess on my palette, and then I'll throw it away. Okay, so I'm taking a smaller brush. This is a size 3. I've got a 2 over here, and I'm going to start drawing it into place. I may use the smaller one to just for some finer details. So all I'm going to use today for color is burnt sienna and ultramarine blue. And then I'll make sort of a inky soupy mixture off to the side, right about here. So you really won't be missing much on my palette. Now I'm going to put her on the canvas using a method called sight size. Early on when we did the Clint Eastwood drawing, we were doing the drawing of our character sight size, exactly the same size. And for some that was a bit of a challenge, so if you missed it, on the Facebook page, I did do a separate little video, look in the video section, where I'm illustrating a cartoon dog head. I have the cartoon dog head here, and I drew it sight size, exactly the same size right next to it, just kind of breaking it down a little bit simpler. Same thing here. I'm going to make her that size on here. So my purpose of this study is to really help just to get your feet wet with doing a simple portrait. Okay, so the first object is figuring out where she's going to go. Where is your top of your head and the bottom and so forth? Where is that going to fit in here? And as lovely as her hands are, I decided not to put them in just for the sake of time. So I think this is a nice distance to the top of the canvas if her head is there at the top of it. And let's decide that her chin should be about in here, back of her neck, shoulder, neck comes down about like this, shoulder like this. So she's going to kind of fit in this sphere. So if her head, and you can do this too, you can just kind of start loosely laying it in about like that. So her chin will be here, forehead here, the top coming down about like this. And so she's going to live in there. And then the jaw will come down like this on her neck. So I'll come back through here and I'll explain some more of these measurements and what I'm doing to arrive at these decisions. I'll paint all of this back in here. I want it fairly dark with just a lighter little passage in here. But her dark hair frames her face really nicely over here. So this will all be in that area in there. Okay, so I think I'm comfortable with this size and placement of everything in here. I just can't handle that her chin is dark. It looks like she's got a little goatee. We can't start it off weird. Okay, so there's that. So now I'm gonna divide up her head, and the first thing I want to do before I start even figuring out where her eyes are gonna go on here is to get the correct diagonal, because they're not exactly level. Her eyes, the bottom of her nose, and the angle of her mouth are going to be equally parallel on your canvas. If they're even slightly off, your drawing is going to be off. So if you're following along, you can stop the filming and get caught up to just this general distance from here to there to there, then there. So now I'm going to put the eye line in. I'm seeing it slightly curved. This would be straight and level, and that's just the slightest bit angled. Now, I'll have to double check the distance down her nose is and the distance down her mouth is, but I'm guessing that these angles are about in this location to each other. Chin, about like that. So if I had to guess, I'd say her eyes are about in this area, with the eyebrows being about in this vicinity, giving us about this much space for the forehead. The forehead is in line with the eyes and the nose as well. The top right in here, and then where the plane turns and goes down to the side. This is all a whole different plane over here on the side of the head. And so remember I showed you the skull at the beginning. Those are the planes I want to talk about. The frontal plane right here, and then the plane of the nose as it comes this way. These are passages that are important, that are going to be picking up a lot of light. And so we need to be cognizant of those angles as they turn. Like that. So this whole contour on the side of her face maps out this shadow contour, giving us that definition. So and that pretty much gives us the initial lay-in. And this eye socket here is very important because it defines the likeness. Remember when I talked about the eye socket on the skull? Everybody's is unique and different, and we can get a likeness by observing the different subtle angles in those bones, the ocular cavity. And then the cheek, as it comes down, I referred to the zygomatic bone, and where that is in relation to the eye, that's always different on people. So we'll just take that into consideration. And then the ear. Her ear is pretty much in shadow. All we see is just the lower portion because the rest is tucked around the hair. So you can carve out that ear by not painting it, basically. You paint the hair instead. So we'll just mask in some of this hair. And in fact, I can just carry that all the way to the background here. Because wherever I can lose an edge, we're definitely going to want to do that. So now I'm going to clean this brush off and take my smaller one and just start mapping in the exact distances where everything is. So I'm going to start with one that I consider truth, and we're going to start with this eye right here, and our iris. And deciding that I like the location where I had it, we'll factor in where that is going to be sitting inside that eye socket. And then this whole passage for the nose, we can just put that down and I'll refine that shape in there here soon. So the edge of the nose and this eye socket has a deeper shadow, and then the top of the nose, right, the bridge in between, I have it too dark there. But I will take my paper towel here and just kind of wipe out where I see a little bit more of that lighter passage, just to give me an idea where that nose is going to sit. Maybe I'll even scrub some of it out with a brush. You can get most of all the paint off your brush and just sort of rub it out like this. This is every bit as helpful with drawing in your anatomy as using darker paint. So you can erase to help you with your anatomy as well. Okay, so we're getting somewhere. All right, so back to this eye. Now I'm going to measure over that eye how many eyes over the other one is. With the tip of my thumb right in the corner, it's exactly one eye apart. So I'm going to make sure that I have clearly defined where the corner is here. Just to get that in the exact location. It's okay to take the time to fuss and get it right. Okay, so there's one eye. Measuring over. So I have the other eye starting right there. Okay, so now I'm going to draw a line straight across from this eye to see where that eye hits it. Locked my elbow, Okay, straight across from this eye is where the eyebrow starts on the other eye. So I do have that in the right place. So that's where the eyebrow is, and it's much lighter as it turns and goes over into the side plane of the lip. When the plane here, the lip plane, picks up some of that eyebrow, it's lighter tone. So I'm just grabbing a teeny bit of white just to make sure that I don't forget that. Okay, so then her eye is going to fit in that lower, just below it, right at that corner where we decided. Okay. Now that iris over there is going to be a lot more vertical because it's on a side, the plane of her face is starting to turn. So on this eye, we're seeing a rounder, little bit rounder circle for the iris. As the plane on that face turns, that circle of the eye turns more into an oval. So this iris over here is more of an oval. So we can get more of that when I start painting in the actual details of the eye, but just to be aware of that. Okay, there's some subtle shades of red down there under the eye that I want to try to squeeze in. Like that. All right, so while I have this looser brush here handy, I'm just going to put a thin passage here for this value, the shadow, on the side of her head over here. I'm trying to keep all of this shadow here as unified as possible. So if I squint way down at her picture over there, I don't even really see the separation where the jaw is, where it separates from her face. So just a subtle shift in value, not even that much. Just to get some of that. We'll get more of that neck anatomy and all of that later on. But for now, if you can unify it, tie it together. Do a lot of squinting. Get some of the upper lip shadow and the lower lip shadow. And just think about that contour that I had mapped out here. Okay, I'm gonna brush off I really want to pull out a little bit more of this neck. Just cleaned it off, wiped it off. It's pretty bright. We'll tone that down. Put in some more of this background here. I'm looking at how much of her chin is showing on that side of her neck, and so I needed to pull that back significantly more. And then pull this highlight about in here. So it's so easy to make adjustments too as you go along. To pull it a little further back here behind the ear. Okay. All right, so I'm feeling better about that. And then I'm going to hit this darker here so that it really starts to frame in the face. Always checking the distances too. Where does this eyebrow end over here in relation to the distance of that temple? Put the edges of her mouth back in because this kind of got lost. And the ear is in here. Okay, now I'm going to clean some of this up over here. I really want a soft edge where her face meets this part of the background. So cleaning this, I'm going to really refine this contour now. And I can do that with a clean brush. I'm seeing her cheekbone is about like that. And then I can take the background a little bit and bring it in. So it's a matter of pushing and pulling. So really you're just kind of sculpting out the different values and planes of the face. Just like you did if you did a portrait master copy. It's the same idea. Some people I've seen do this wiping out with Q-tips. You can do that too. So the angle of her nose is off, but that's okay. I can easily fix that by pulling this. I find it much more difficult to speak while painting portraits, so I'm not really saying that much, but you can kind of see what I'm doing as I'm going along here, making adjustments and wiping my brush, pushing and pulling, and so forth. Oops. This one, I really want to get the bridge of this nose just right. Bring this in a little bit. So just refining some of those contour elements. Like that. And of course, as you go along, you'll work on the painting some more as you pull those things out and push and pull and so forth. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I've just taken a size 6, actually this is a 4, flat filbert. Doesn't matter, it's mostly dry, but I'm going through here and just kind of softening up some of the blotchier passages where I had things that were too dark and they were affecting the overall understanding of the anatomy. So if you have something too dark or too light, it can make it look like it comes at us too much or too far away. So I'm just going through here now and just refining the likeness and the values. So you can do that just by, see like how this is all scratchy in here? Just with a dry brush, I'm barely touching it, but I'm cleaning that passage a little bit. Her chin kind of looks too dark, but I do need sort of a darkish value on it, but I don't want it all scratchy looking like beard stubble. So cleaning that area too. And I can just put a little more paint on here just to clean up this contour where her hair meets her face and comes back this way. I'm going to keep that. If I don't make the hair dark enough, it doesn't really frame like it's supposed to. So I just want to put a value down here where it appears that I need more of that understanding of what's going on. I can always get the shape of her head when I work on the background a little bit more. Some of these come through about like this. Just erasing, but I'm taking some of the pigment and pushing it off into the background like that. Really soft. Now I'm going to push hard to get some of that pigment to eat away at some of it because it's a little too dark. I'm kind of messing with the overall shape. I just want to get that a little better. So I'll just take this color and go right off into that background there. Just like that. And so that's okay. So I can kind of clean this a little bit more too. And I'm going to pull in some more light here. Just because I think it'd feel nice to see some of that light really hitting her face. I'll erase some of it over here. Just to create that illusion of light traveling behind her, I'm going to hit that a little bit of value, and then I'll be able to get some of this anatomy back here in her neck. We can see it, and it's really pretty. She has a very elegant musculature back here, so I want to make sure that I pull in some of that. Okay. So all I'm going to do now, before I wrap this session up for today, is I'm going to take and clean my little brush off and come through here and just hit the places where I really want it to be a little brighter. And so I'm going to double check all my measurements too. I'm going to check the eyes, going across from the eyes. This is the width from here to here. And I'm going to tip my brush and go down from the corner of her eye, checking down where it hits the chin. Okay, so here's that same measurement here. So at home you can print off your drawing and you can just tape it right up next to your easel. Yep, that's right there. Right up next to your easel, and it'll be much easier for you to make it exactly the same size, just having it right next to it. A little bit of an accent in here. We'll get all of these more as we go along in the weeks. I just really want to soften this. I don't like how sharp that accent is. There we go. That's better. A few darker spots in here. Refine this drawing. This is clean now with the camisole. Oops, too bright. Looks terrible. But you can see how quickly you can erase. So, kind of getting to a stopping place here, and I could sit and pick at it because it's hard for me to walk away from a painting that isn't finished. But I think it's a good place to say, all right, we'll pick it up next week. So get about to this point and we will reconvene and work on this together. All right. Okay, so we are all set then for next week. Get your painting to this point and we will add more to it next week. All right, thanks guys.